B2B marketing strategies, best practices to win in 2025. B2B marketing in 2025 is less forgiving and more buyer-led. If your B2B marketing strategies feel like they're producing half the pipeline at twice the effort, you're not imagining it. The buyer has changed. Research happens earlier, consensus happens in groups, and sellers often get invited in late, if they get invited in at all. In 2025, the winners are the teams that earn trust before the first SDR touch and then convert that trust into meetings and opportunities with relevance. A 2024 Gartner survey found 61% of B2B buyers prefer an overall rep-free buying experience, and 73% actively avoid suppliers that send irrelevant outreach. That's the new bar. Outbound isn't optional, but it is absolutely punished when it's lazy. Your brand reputation is now tied to how precise your targeting and messaging are. At SalesHive, we've seen the same pattern across thousands of campaigns. Teams that try to brute force volume lose deliverability, burn lists, and train the market to ignore them. Teams that build a unified revenue motion, tight ICP, clean data, coordinated outbound, and ABM-level focus where it matters create compounding pipeline. The rest of this guide is about building that motion in a way your team can execute this quarter. The 2025 buyer journey. Marketing does more work before sales shows up. The biggest shift is timing. 6 Sense reports buyers are nearly 70% through their purchasing process before engaging sellers, and in more than 80% of cases, it's the buyer who initiates first contact. That means your website, content, peer proof, and positioning are doing the job that discovery calls used to do. The second shift is complexity. Buying groups now average 10 to 13 people globally, so one champion rarely carries a deal across the finish line. Your content and outreach have to speak to multiple roles: economic buyer, technical evaluator, end user, procurement, and your SDRs need a plan to multi-thread without spamming. The practical takeaway is simple. Your pipeline is won or lost in the pre-sales window. If prospects can't self-educate, validate you quickly, and see credible outcomes before a meeting, you'll struggle to convert interest into opportunities. That's why the best B2B sales agency and demand gen teams treat marketing and outbound as a single experience, not separate channels. Treat marketing, SDRs, and AEs as one revenue team. In 2025, the clean split between marketing generates leads and sales closes deals breaks down. Organizations with strong sales and marketing alignment are 67% more effective at closing deals and generate 208% more revenue from marketing efforts than misaligned peers. That's not a soft benefit, it's a measurable advantage that shows up in win rate and deal velocity. Alignment starts with shared accountability. One ICP, one target account universe, and one scorecard tied to pipeline and revenue. When SDR leaders participate in campaign planning and marketers sit in pipeline reviews, you stop debating lead quality in the abstract and start fixing conversion in the real funnel. This is the difference between an SDR agency operating as a silo and an outsourced sales team, internal or external, operating as part of one revenue engine. We recommend a weekly revenue stand-up with one dashboard that everyone agrees on, meetings with ICP accounts, opportunities created by segment, stage-to-stage conversion, and cycle length. The point isn't more meetings, it's faster learning loops. When messaging, targeting, and follow-up all get tuned together, even traditional channels like telemarketing and cold call services become more effective because they're informed by real buyer signals. Build a sharper ICP and a tiered account list you can execute. Most teams don't have an outbound problem. They have an ICP problem. A common mistake is chasing volume instead of relevance, blasting generic sequences at huge lists and calling it productivity. In a world where 73% of buyers actively avoid irrelevant outreach, that approach doesn't just underperform, it creates negative brand equity and makes your future campaigns more expensive. The fix is operational, not inspirational. Block a half day with marketing, SDRs, and AEs to document your ICP with firmographics, technographics, deal breakers, and why now triggers. Then convert that into a shared Tier 1 to 3 account list. This is where list building services and B2B list building services pay off, but only if the criteria are owned by revenue leaders, not handed off as a one-time task to ops. Another costly mistake is letting marketing and SDRs run different lists and different definitions of good. When that happens, your CRM gets noisy, reporting gets skewed, and nobody trusts the data enough to make decisions. If you want cold calling services, a cold email agency, or a sales development agency motion to work, you need one account universe that powers paid, email, LinkedIn outreach services, and B2B cold calling services with the same targeting rules. In 2025, pipeline doesn't come from more activity. It comes from fewer, better accounts and a coordinated experience that earns the right to talk. Outbound and email that wins with Rep-Averse buyers. Outbound still works in 2025, but only when it feels like guidance, not pursuit. Buyers may prefer rep-free experiences, yet email remains a pipeline workhorse. Benchmarks put average B2B email ROI around $36 to $46 in revenue per $1 spent. The implication is clear. Keep email in your mix, but redesign it around value, context, and permission-based next steps. The winning sequencing pattern is short, problem-led, and intent-aware. Instead of long product pitches, lead with one relevant insight, one proof point, and one low-friction option for the prospect to choose their own path. An ungated guide, an on-demand demo, or a quick fit check. This is also where strong cold calling companies separate from average ones. Your cold calling team uses calls to clarify context and qualify, not to force a demo on someone mid-research. A simple way to operationalize this is to maintain distinct sequences for net new, no-show follow-up, stalled opportunities, and closed, lost reactivation. Most teams overinvest in prospecting and underinvest in retargeting the leads they already paid to acquire, even though reactivation is often the fastest route to pipeline lift. When we run pay-per-appointment lead generation programs, we treat reactivation as a first-class motion because it rewards relevance and timing. ABM that works, pods, committees, and account-level outcomes. ABM is no longer a nice-to-have for enterprise teams. It's the practical way to influence buying committees and land higher-quality opportunities. Demandbase reports top marketers achieve 81% higher ROI with ABM than non-ABM approaches, largely because ABM forces focus and coordination. For revenue teams, that means fewer accounts, better preparation, and warmer conversations when the buyer finally engages. One common mistake is treating ABM as just another ad campaign with account filters. Real ABM is a pod motion. Marketer, SDR, and AE run one plan for named accounts, with coordinated email, B2B cold calling, LinkedIn, and occasional direct mail when the deal size justifies it. The goal is not clicks. The goal is opportunity creation and deal velocity at the account level across a committee of 10 to 13 stakeholders. A practical starting point is a 90-day ABM pilot for 25 to 50 Tier 1 accounts in one tight segment, with a clear meeting or opportunity target. If you need extra capacity to run that pilot, this is where sales outsourcing can be a force multiplier. An outsourced SDR pod can execute multi-threaded outreach while your AEs stay focused on discovery and deal progression. Done well, ABM becomes the strategic layer on top of your broader lead gen engine, not a replacement for it. AI and data. Use it to increase relevance, not volume. Generative AI is now mainstream, but outcomes still vary wildly by how teams deploy it. In 2025, 73% of marketing teams use generative AI, and teams that ignore it will get out-iterated on testing, content production, and messaging variations. The mistake is using AI to create more noise, more generic emails, more generic posts, more generic personalization, which trains buyers to tune you out. The highest ROI AI use cases are the bottlenecks your team complains about every week: list research, enrichment, account briefs, personalization snippets, objection handling drafts, and message testing. Put guardrails around voice and claims, require human review for final sends, and treat AI outputs as raw material, not finished copy. This approach improves consistency whether you're running an in-house team or partnering with an outbound sales agency. Data hygiene is the multiplier that makes all of this work. Interior found 46% of marketers confident in their data strategy reported significant revenue increases versus just 15% of those who weren't confident. If you want better deliverability, better routing, and better prioritization, assign real ownership for CRM cleanliness, invest in verification and enrichment, and integrate intent signals so your best reps spend time on the warmest accounts. Next steps: a 90-day plan and when to bring in sales outsourcing. If you want wins this quarter, focus on execution speed, not perfect architecture. Start by locking a shared ICP and Tier 1 to 3 account universe. Then, align on SLAs for inbound speed to lead and outbound follow-up. From there, launch one ABM pod pilot and one outbound overhaul, with sequences built for net new and reactivation. Then, review results weekly in a revenue stand-up. When internal bandwidth is the constraint, an outsourced sales team can help you run the experiment without the long hiring cycle. SalesHive is a US-based B2B sales agency specializing in SDR outsourcing, list building, cold email, and B2B cold calling. And we've booked 100,000 plus qualified meetings for 1,500 plus B2B clients. Teams often use us as a lab to test a new vertical, region, or message while keeping AEs focused on converting pipeline. The standard to win in 2025 is relevance at scale, fewer wasted touches, more value per interaction, and tighter coordination across the full buying committee. If you treat Outbound as a brand experience, ABM as an account plan, and AI as a time saver for research and iteration, you'll build a revenue engine that matches how buyers actually buy. Whether you build in-house or partner with a cold calling agency and SDR agency like SalesHive, the playbook is the same: focus, alignment, and consistent execution.